Hello, and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 396. We are recording and broadcasting live on Monday, March 7th, 2022. I'm Dave Lotz. Joining me, as always, is Bobby Jackson. How's it going, Bobby?
It's going good. I'm ready to get into this Batman discussion.
Indeed. Also here, Yasha Wilson.
Hey, everybody.
Michelle Hillard is also here.
Hi, everyone. Hey.
And we have a guest with us coming back to the show. He's been on once before. Kevin Fuentes, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Good to be here.
Welcome.
How's it going?
Yes.
Yeah, you joined us for our review of the Joker.
Yeah, which I could have gone on for like another 50 episodes, but nobody wants to see that. Homeboy's getting way too hype. So get a jacket on him.
So it's probably pretty obvious. We are going to be talking about the Batman today. That's the agenda. The Batman. That's it.
It's the bat, the whole bat, and nothing but the bat.
But the bat, indeed.
We like it.
See, Michelle shaking her head already. My dad
Already starting.
So, spoiler review. We are going to be talking about spoilers for the film for the entire review. There's not going to be a spoiler-free kind of section of this, so we're going to give our warning right now. Spoilers for the entirety of this discussion for the Batman. It has been out for, I guess if you include the first night of the fan first preview night, it's been almost a week, really, since this
From
movie's
the
been
IMAX fan thing, yeah.
Michelle and I, we saw it Tuesday night last week. Kevin, I know you saw it.
I saw it. Yeah,
It's a little intense here.
That's some loud.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear it.
I'm actually kind of hoping we don't lose power.
Hopefully, this live stream does not die in the middle.
I thought that was on purpose. I thought Batman was about to bust in your door. I am vengeance.
Intense in here.
Kevin, I think you saw it like the next night, and I don't know when you guys saw it, Bobby and Yasha.
Yeah, Wednesday night.
See Thursday night showings.
I did. I saw Thursday night.
Okay.
I saw it Friday afternoon.
Okay, I think we
Friday,
saw it.
well, Friday early afternoon, evening.
Right in order.
And then again on Saturday. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we'll probably start off, or not. We are going to start off by going around the table. As always, we pick something. Usually, the Bowl of Destiny picks our order. We didn't use the Bowl of Destiny tonight, but
No bowl.
What'd you use?
Just a randomizer on the internet.
Oh, okay. I
Great.
see. I didn't even realize the order was picked, and I didn't realize you didn't use the bowl to do it. So
I didn't use the bowl. I hope no one is offended that the bowl didn't happen. But Bobby, you didn't have to draw yourself, but you drew First Blood. So
Yep.
Yeah.
the bowl or the not bowl chose you first.
I am excited.
I mean, look, you just did.
Excited.
No, you just did my review for me. I was excited. No, in all seriousness, we talked a lot last week about our expectations and stuff. So I'll just jump right in and say that I really love the movie a lot, and I think that it's one of the movies that, for me, a Batman that I've been looking to see for a long time as a fan of the character in the comics. So getting to see this version of it in this way it was told, in this very stylized way, it for me was catnip, no pun intended, but it was just like one of those things where I hadn't ever seen the detective version of Batman this well thought out and done. And so having the Riddler as the arch villain in this movie was perfect for that format and to be able to do it this way. And I just think that a lot of this movie, in a weird sort of way, had a symbiotic relationship with what Spider-Man Homecoming is, and that you see the character already a little bit into their career as that character, and then they're not fully who they become later on by the end of maybe this series, and as well as with the Homecoming series. and you see that development throughout. And so I feel like that's what we might get with this series as well. You're seeing him very early on. He still makes mistakes about certain things, and that's kind of my favorite Batman, is the one that still is fallible and doesn't do everything perfectly. And so there's definitely those elements in there as well. But then you also have this centralized murder mystery thriller thing that's going on, and the way it gets involved, and you find yourself really along for the ride and trying to find out how these things are going to connect, and the way that the Riddler has been 2 steps ahead, sort of reminiscent of the Dark Knight, when you have the Joker steps ahead of the Batman. And so I think that it was something that it was a long time coming, and I think Matt Reeves did a fantastic job of giving us this version of Batman and doing something that no one else has done before, when it's so easy to fall in that pocket of just kind of considering doing the same sort of version of Batman and telling the same sort of story, but maybe with a different villain that hadn't been showcased as much before. So I think that I am very much looking forward to what is coming next in terms of the movies. We know we have some HBO Max stuff coming, but as far as the movies and the direction it goes, I'm very curious and really anxious to see what Matt Reeves has up his sleeve. With that being said, yeah, I will let anyone else go, because I don't want to. I'll keep going for a while if it was up to me.
This
So
is gonna be a long
I'll let somebody
show,
else go.
so-
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, you got next pick. What did you
Oh,
think of
nice.
the Batman?
The Batman. I mean, honestly, my expectations were pretty high for this one, and I was definitely not disappointed. This film delivers. It delivers everything. I mean, like Bobby was saying, like, I feel like you really finally get to see the detective side of Batman. I mean, like, I feel like it's been in the other films, you know, in different little ways, and they get a little more, some of them even kind of get more into his more sciencey brain, I guess. But this one really digs into Batman as the detective, and, like, you know, just seeing him in scenes where he's interacting with the police officers, even if it's friendly or not friendly, like just him actually in a crime scene doing detective work. It's pretty awesome, like, to see him that way. And honestly, like, I think the story was just extremely well done. I mean, from beginning to end, it's just the flow of it, the rate at which it unfurls. It was just awesome. No, like, I'm incredibly impressed with the performances that we got from everyone. I mean, even, I don't know, I don't even say even, like, literally just everybody. Like, I felt like everybody embodied the character that they were, you know, assigned to. Like, they just became that person. Like, it was really a joy to watch. I mean, not shockingly, Paul Dano was just ridiculously good. I mean, and for most of the movie, you don't really get to see his face or really get to, like,
Oh, we lost you a little bit.
We can't hear you if you're talking, Michelle.
can't hear me if I'm talking right now.
You're back. You're
There
back.
you go.
Oh, I'm back now. Okay,
We lost
cool.
you for about 10 seconds.
It could be this. I have no idea what's going on. It's raining like crazy here.
Blame it on the thunderstorm.
I am
Blame
going
it
on
on the
thunderstorm.
rain.
That's the plan. Unfortunately, with this thunderstorm, our dog is freaking out. So it's been there was barking. But anyways, no, I think towards the end of the film, you get to see Paul Dano really shine and do the thing that Paul Dano does so well, which is just embody whatever character he's in. And it was spectacular. The whole film, I can just go on and on and on and on. But yeah, I wish I could be like, oh, you know, this person was a standout performance, or this one specifically. But, you know, I thought Zoe Kravitz did a great job. I thought Robert Pattinson did a great, like, everybody. There wasn't just like one person that I think just really stood out and shone above others. It was like everybody did well. Like, it just was really so many good things. The music, like, the special effects. Oh my gosh, the Batmobile was sick. And I don't know. I'm just really happy with this film. And I will stop so that other people can go on to talk about what they think about it. So I'm happy with it. Hopefully, Rubes is happy with it.
Kevin, our guest tonight, what did you think of the movie?
I'm gonna try to make myself short-winded. So to be honest, man, like David knows how I am. Like every time that a new movie comes out, he asks me, have you watched the trailer? I am the type of person where if it's a movie that I know I'm going to be interested in, I caught the initial trailer that they released where it's basically him pounding a guy, just into submission. That was the only one I watched. I hadn't watched anything past that. So Batman is my favorite superhero, not because of all the cool gadgets or whatever, but like I'm a bit of a pessimist, so I don't set an expectation, so I don't get, so I'm not disappointed. But yeah, I mean, when they first announced Robert Pattinson, the lessons that we learned with Heath Ledger, to not judge the casting first, definitely gave the guy the benefit of the doubt, even though I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to buy a hot toy of Glitter Boy over here from the the Twilight series and all that stuff, whatever. But really, I mean, honestly, the way everything was put together, the acting was on point. Pattinson did a great job, and I know that like the most minor gripe could be that he wasn't Diesel the way that Christian Bale was going into Batman Begins. Batman Begins, Christian Bale just put on weight, just mass, and he was a beast. But even that said, he was menacing. I mean, he was stoic in his portrayal of Batman. In terms of, I don't know how the hell they made it seem like he was hitting with like 5,000 pounds of force. He looked like he was straight whooping ass, hardcore every single time he punched. I mean, it was. I long story short, I absolutely loved it. Can we just talk about the way that we get to see him induce fear the first time? Like comparing when he first walks out to that music and you hear those foot stomps, and then everybody stops trying to beat up Asian dude from the subway. It's like, hold up, what is that? And it's like in that moment, you're stoking fear. They know that something's coming out of the darkness, right? I am darkness, I am the light, I am vengeance, I'm Batman. It was the personification that whole scene was so Batman. It's ridiculous, So, when you just start looking back at openings or the first time that you get to see Batman in other movies, like with 89 Batman, you got Keaton. The first time we see him is on the rooftop, and you see like that kind of whatever CG they had at the time where it kind of looked like they cut like a piece of film, and you see him walking back into the tower, and then you see him come down on the rooftop where the two muggers were on the roof. They were scared, but it wasn't menacing to you. On this one, you got to feel that heartbeat of when he's walking out of the darkness and he is vengeance coming out of the dark. So that type of introduction for a Batman film and how gritty it was perfect. What do you call it? I think the choice for Riddler, we've seen so many villains, I mean, in the Nolan verse, we saw Talia al Ghul, we saw Bane, we saw Two-Face, Maroni, Falcon. I mean, we've seen a whole bunch of people, and yeah, we got Jim Carrey as Riddler back in '95, but Riddler is the perfect guy for this detective Batman, like Brian was saying. They did a good job in bringing that villain to the current day, where if you got a guy that's going to be doing riddles, he's going to be a hacker. He's going to know his way around ones and zeros, coupling that with, strapping bombs to people's heads and putting ultimatums on them, and just making him that next step up, because the stronger the villain is, the more crazy the villain is, the more outlandish their behavior is, the more that Batman's going to be able to come back and counter that, so that type of energy being matched on screen was dope as hell. Michelle, like you said, the Batmobile, we're talking about Batman year 2. So you're not going to see a seasoned Batman with cannons and grappling hooks coming out or whatever. Homeboy is just like, I need something that's going to sound nasty, that's going to get me from point A to point B. And when he turns on that Batmobile for the first time, you hear that deep grumble. You're like, oh, shit. Like, I didn't even know the guy to my left, and I was tapping his foot. I was like, dude, you see this? But yeah, I mean that, and has anybody here played any of the Batman Arkham games by
Yeah.
Rockstar? All right,
Mhm.
tell me you didn't feel like you were like Yoda on Luke's back, going through. I watched it in 4DX. I don't know if you guys have watched a
Oh
movie
no,
in
I
4DX.
haven't.
Oh my god, bro! I want to buy that damn box and put it in my house, man. I would watch morning news in 4DX. It sprays water at you whenever
Yeah.
somebody's getting hit. It blows air past your ears. The whole thing. I mean, it just adds to the whole cinema experience because, I mean, it was wonderfully scored. His soundtrack every time he's on screen is just dope as hell, and it was really enhanced by that 4DX. So when that Batmobile turned on and the whole seat vibrates and there's a back thing just like nudging you in the back, it was just dope as hell. And getting back to the Arkham Knight thing, the amount of first perspective that you get being Batman, like how much first perspective we got to see through Batman's eyes coming into this. It was insane. It felt like you were part of it, and in the Arkhamverse, in Arkham Knight, which was the last game that they came out with, like 2016 or so, you finally get to drive the Batmobile. So it's like it took elements from every single era, really, if you think about it. The detective stuff is definitely from the Neil Adams when in the comic books when Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil took Batman back to its roots, being a detective from the campy years of the '66 era Batman. And then you just get pretty much a taste of every single year of Batman in this film. What do you call it? The way that he free flow fights from villain to villain or from person to person. It's like this is the beginning of somebody that knows how to fight multiple people at a time and be successful. He's doing gadget combinations where he's electrocuting a guy in the neck. He's using his grapnel. I mean, these are all things that if you played the Arkham games, that was one of the funnest parts of the game. It puts you right in there. You feel like you're kicking ass. You feel like you got gauntlets on. It was just amazing. The storytelling, the overall aesthetic of the film. Gotham in this movie was a character in and of itself, to be honest. Because we got Gotham with like Nolanverse, hands down, epic films. I've got them in DVD version. I've got them in Blu-ray. I've got them in 4K. If those bitches would have came out in VHS, I'd have them in VHS. But we with Christopher Nolan, we got a clean Chicago as Gotham, and the only time that you got to see it gritty was like when Bruce Wayne goes down to Falcone's place, and Falcone's like, "Oh, you think you got something to prove here?" That's the only time that you really get to see like kind of gritty Gotham. Here we got to see almost like an amplification of Burton's Gotham everywhere. All the streets looked messed up. There was messed up alleyways every single place that you looked. There was grit. There was this city was alive with what's not right, giving even more of a justification for Batman to be doing his thing, man. I already feel like I went too long. I loved it. I feel like this is I feel like this is the like in the Nolan verse, like we've got 3 amazing movies, but you also have Ra's al Ghul dead, Joker dead. I mean, we got pretty much people that were offed. You know what I'm saying? So it almost feels like an Elseworld story outside of continuity, like with the comic books. With this movie, it feels like it could launch the Batman verse. Because Riddler's in Arkham. We know that was Joker talking to him. He's like, they'll treat you like a clown. I mean, my hair stood up when that happened. I was like, oh, shit, you got me. This felt all types of right. And like Brian said, he's in his second year. He's not supposed to be seasoned, but he's starting to fight the people that he's supposed to fight. It's not like the show that we got with Gotham on Fox, that you had Jim Gordon fighting villains that were supposed to be Batman. It's like, why is that happening? This movie, if WB Smart and the brass get out of the way and just let the storytelling happen, this could be the jumping on and the catalyst for everything right Batman for the coming years. And I don't mind buying, sparkly boys Batman figure. I already got it on pre-order. But yeah, I'm in love with the movie. Honestly, my wife and I, we were supposed to see it again on Saturday. Unfortunately, my son got sick, so we had to cancel those plans. But yeah, I'm about to give Regal Cinemas another, I don't know, $200 just to go see like 5-6 more times. But yeah, absolutely loved it.
Keep paying them.
Yeah, I mean, as a Batman fan, I couldn't be happier. Great all around performances from everybody. The teamwork between Gordon and Batman really seeming like Kobe and Shaq, like trying to figure stuff out together and put all the riddles together. Like Brian said, this is finally the detective that we wanted to see, that maybe in the Nolan verse wasn't there. It was more so, if you remember back, like Michael Caine's Alfred was the one that kind of gave Christian Bale's Batman the hint on some stuff and kind of figured some stuff out for him, as opposed to letting Batman be the detective. But yeah, it was great. I give it 10 stars out of 5. Yeah, I can't be happy.
I guess it's my turn to give my take. Yeah, I mean, it's probably no surprise. I'm wearing a hoodie. I was definitely a fan of this movie. I really, really wanted to watch this the second time before we did this review. It actually really annoys me that I couldn't make it happen, but just with family and schedule, it just was not in the cards for this weekend to see this the second time. But like, I walked out of the theater super happy with it, and then immediately thinking, man, I've got to see this again before we do our review. And like, not just because I loved it and I want to watch it again, but there's, I mean, if there's nitpicky stuff, and that's nitpicky things about it that maybe I bump on, like, I mean, other, I feel like it's the kind of thing, like in a second viewing, I'll probably like it even more. I just have that feeling. I could be wrong, but we'll see. But no, I loved it. I'm probably going to repeat some of what you guys said. I know I missed some of what you guys said, helping our dog out during the storm, but yeah, this is also for me the Batman I've been dying to see on film. For me, I've been reading Batman since like just before the 89 Batman. I was, at that time I was reading a lot of Batman, a lot of detective comics, and yeah, this, like you were saying, Bobby, this is the detective version of Batman we haven't really seen on film yet. And it was what we were hoping for. It's what we were basically being told we were going to get. And yeah, they definitely delivered. It was pretty spectacular. Everybody in it is great. I'm just going to be repeating what everybody is saying, but I mean, it was, I love the film. Michael Giacchino's score is fantastic. It made me happy that, the use of Nirvana's Something in the Way was actually in the film twice and not just in the teaser trailer. Cause it, like, watching it in that teaser trailer, I was like, oh, it's such a perfect song for this. And I'm like, I really hope they actually use it in the movie. And it made me happy that they did. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to just repeat what everybody's been saying, but I'm very, very happy with the film. So
I know you were also very excited about the Batmobile. I think it was just hearing the rumble. It was almost like a rock cleaning thing. Like it was gravelly and hard and loud and violent. And
it was probably the one point in the
excited.
entire movie that, I mean, we were both wearing masks sitting through the whole
Right.
movie. It wasn't like you could tell I was smiling, but it was the one point in the movie that I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Yeah. David's really quiet in movies, but I could tell like there was his body language shifted in his seat. And I could tell he was like, this is awesome. Like I could tell he was excited. Like he's feeling the Batmobile.
It was pretty sweet.
That's the best. I mean, that's really what we go out for, right? I mean, that you're looking at something great when you draw an emotional response that isn't typical, and that's when you got something good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say really quick too, and I mean, we're gonna talk about this movie, wherever our conversation takes us for a while. And I don't know if you guys bumped on this. It's not a negative about the movie. It's a negative about the marketing. I did watch, I think, all of the trailers, and this is definitely one of those cases where I think I wish I hadn't seen anything other than like basically a teaser that they never made, because
a fan-made teaser.
Yeah, what I mean is like these movies are so good. This movie is so good, and I love it just the way it is. But I will say, yeah, there's also just long stretches of a lot of dialogue and a lot of detective work, and there's long stretches where you don't have a lot of action scenes. And there's no doubt that in the teaser trailer and the trailers, they definitely showcase major moments in the various action scenes that we did get. And it was a kind of thing that when I was watching the film, I was like, oh, this is going to be the point where we see the car bust through, the fire, and it's going to make him crash. And even the beginning of the film, and you touched on this, Kevin, like the first 15 to 20 minutes of this movie was just like
Epic.
it was special. I think, and
you already knew that this was going to be your Batman movie in the first 15-20 minutes. You're like,
exactly.
This is what I haven't seen the rest of the 2 hours and 40 minutes, but
right.
I already know this is the shit.
Right. But
Can I curse?
I wish I could have experienced that movie having not seen that scene of him just beating the shit out of that guy like in the trailer. Like it was still fine. It's still really effective. And I still loved it, but it would have been even better to experience that whole thing without having already seen that scene and knowing.
I think I've had that experience before. You know me, I will watch the first thing and usually skip most of the others. And I think there's been things where it's been revealed in subsequent trailers that I didn't see. And so when I'm in the theater and I'm reacting, I always feel like I'm the only one reacting to it. And then I'm thinking people are like, calm down, dude. It was in the trailer. And I'm like, I didn't see that. It's new to me, but it's like I can tell that other people had seen that somewhere when I'm the only one really responding to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a part of what's wrong with like the marketing machine. It's like you have to sell people so hard to get them to come out and see stuff that you're giving. And this is the conversation I've had with David. Like, I don't want to see anything because nowadays you can piece together the entire thing, even chronologically. Even if you see all the trailers out of order, you can piece together things chronologically. And the human mind, first of all, you're watching a damn detective film. You're going to try to figure out what the hell the next step is. And then if you're referencing something that you already saw, I don't want to experience the movie like that. Like what I've told David, and this is what I tell everybody that I talk to, is like, I might be old school and it might seem weird that, nowadays in the day of, endless data and information, I don't want to see it and I stay away from the trailers. Is I want to go and I want to experience what the director wanted me to see from the get-go, like it's the first time I'm seeing it. You know what I'm saying? I want to have that authentic reaction.
Well, Kevin, I mean, I get that, but it's like also there's statistically, I think Bobby and I both learned this when we were finishing school, is that statistically, the more information that they show when it comes to the trailers, the higher return that they get when it comes to the movies. Now, I understand exactly where you're coming from because I'm the same way. Like I'll watch it a little bit for a while and then I'll just kind of be over it. I mean, there was a huge article like a week after the trailer first dropped and is saying, fans have figured out the Riddler's riddle already. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't even bother reading that because it's like, I don't want to know what the answer is. I want to watch that in the movie. Like
thumbnails.
Yeah. What the hell is that? Like, I don't want to see what you figured out or whatever and stuff like that. Or if you have an idea or even be close to it, because I want to see it firsthand in the movie. I will watch the trailers, and I watched a good handful of the trailers before the movie came out, but I didn't watch all of them because it's like, there's no need for me to see all the other ones. Yeah. I saw the first one. I was already in for the first one because it was amazing. And it's a shame because it's, you don't want to have everything given to you, but from a marketing perspective, they do it because of like the more information that they put in the trailer, almost without giving it away, the more more people want to go and see it, the more people go and see the movie. I think also it's just like with Endgame when it was coming out, they had the big marketing push for Endgame. They had just the trailer. They didn't tease anything. But then as soon as the movie came out, they started pushing, don't spoil the Endgame. Don't spoil the Endgame. And that piqued people's curiosity to want to come and see it. Like, we'll finish it out and stuff like that. But anyways.
Well, you haven't had a chance to. Yeah, you haven't had a chance to share your thoughts. What did you think of it?
Cool. So I'm gonna be odd man out here.
Be that guy.
Bit. I'm gonna be that guy. No, but let me ask you a question. First off, Kevin, you're very optimistic that you think that the WB is not going to get in the way because they always get in the way. They always get it in the way and they always screw it up. At some point or another, they're going to do something that is you're just going to walk in. You're going to be like, the fuck? Like
Exactly.
what just
I know.
happened? Like
I know.
what just happened? And I love your optimism, bro. And I wish I could give you a hug and just tell you it's going to be okay. I know it's not, because I know that moment is going to come.
Yeah.
Now, the question that I want to present to all of you here really quickly is how much would the theater experience be with affecting your enjoyment of the film? Say the sound being off, the lighting being off, how much would that really affect you when it comes to the enjoyment of this film?
Oh, I would riot.
I can answer that. My second viewing was trash, honestly. I saw it in a non Dolby, non IMAX theater, and it was too dark. I was like, what's going on here? I can't see what's going on. And I've seen the movie already, so I know what it's supposed to look like visually. And I think there was David, you liked the tweet that I think that it was maybe Matt Reeves sent out that sent a letter to the theaters to say, hey, set your theater, the lights at this. So for optimal viewing. And I don't think that everyone did that because it really did affect it the second time I watched it, not being able to see it. And I'm like, I don't know how many people here are seeing it for the first time, but I feel bad for them if this is their first time seeing it and they're experiencing it in this way. Because it was not great. And to people who haven't seen this yet, I would definitely suggest, and also you, David, to go see it in Dolby, because the rumble of the Batmobile from the seat underneath you, when you hear that, it feels like you're right there next to riding shotgun with Batman. It's so awesome there. So I would definitely say, Yasha, it affected my viewing, not seeing it in the best way possible, for sure.
And
that sucks, man.
And I was gonna say too, and to kind of jump on that, like I heard a review on a local radio station this morning, and it was actually a group of people who were just really trashing the film. And it was really frustrating to listen to. And one of their arguments was like, oh, I couldn't tell what was happening. I couldn't see. And I had that thought. I'm like, I have a feeling he saw just a bad projection, like this is a dark film, but if projected correctly, it looks great.
Right.
And I like that tweet. Apparently Matt Reeves had sent out this, kind of this instructions to projectionists, like making sure it was at 14 lumens per whatever, which is an argument that's been made now for a while, that theaters will apparently dim down their bulbs so that they last longer because they're very expensive. And it's really frustrating. I mean, I remember learning that in school for audio school, and about just the amount of work that goes into these films and the amount of just perfectionism to detail, and then it all comes down to that last guy, the projectionist, that's making however many dollars an hour.
Right.
It's unfortunate.
Right. It's hard because it's like, for the projectionist, he's just doing what the management's telling him to do, and they're telling him run the bulb lower. But at the same time, like, we're talking about there are still small mom and pop movie theaters out there, but a lot of these, AMC, Regal, I can't even think of it. What is it? Not Austin.
Regal, AMC.
Anyways,
Epic.
But like all these major companies, they have money to replace light bulbs in projections. Like, you budget your theater so that you can have these bulbs come in, no matter how expensive they freaking are. Who cares?
You think they have a bulb budget?
Like, no, I mean, like their overall budget.
Probably.
No, I'm just messing.
You're part of a major corporation. Like, if you're like, hey man, we need to up our budget, we're running out of bulbs because we're actually showing the movies that we were supposed to show the movies with the right lighting. I need more bulbs. They'll give it to them. They're making money hand over fist. They're not.
I would say.
Well, maybe
I would say, Michelle,
issues, but,
to that if they do have a bulb budget, it's probably budgeted at them using it at the way that they're using it, so that it lasts longer.
Right.
So that they
That's
don't
the
have
problem.
to buy
It's a whole problem.
But you would think, for movie theaters having been closed down for quite some time, that
it would have saved money on bulbs.
I got bulbs laying
up for lost time.
Bobby, you bring up a good point, because like the reality is, if they're showing movies the way that they should, and they're increasing or optimizing the enjoyment of you, the fan, are you not going to tell your friends to go watch it? They, instead of looking at it as an asset for them to run it the way it's supposed to be, so that they can showcase the art the way it is, and we're talking about cinema. It's art, right? If they showcase it right, then that's going to get more people to be like, yo, you have to go see this movie. So it would be a benefit to them. But we're talking about most likely bean counters and lawyers and those types that run every single other corporation, and they cut the tree from the root. So,
but I mean, we specifically don't go to certain theaters because we know certain sound systems in certain theaters are crap. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay for that because I know I'm going to go to this other theater, the same amount of money that has good sound system. Like I would never like this film. I was like, no. We're seeing it in IMAX or Dolby at this theater or that theater. And that's the only 2 theaters we go into in town. I don't care. Like, that's it.
But Yasha, sorry, we've taken your question and we've run. Please continue.
No, but I mean, you guys really answered my question there. Like, I mean, that really dives in and really affects the theater experience, because when I walked out, I was, that was okay. That was pretty good. When I enjoyed it and thinking about it, like thinking back to the story, the plot, like everything, I did enjoy it, but the sound quality was completely fucked. Like it was to the point where the music, like first off, the score is brilliant. Like the score was amazing. I loved it. But when it's so loud, I can't even come close to making out what the people are actually saying to move the story forward. And then the lights on the stairs where people come up and down to basically, to their seats, it didn't feel like they dimmed them at all. So that completely fucked up the image on the screen. So it's like I'm barely able to see what was going on.
No.
And I've had people talk to me and ask me what I thought of the film, because I'm like their go-to guy when it comes to like, should I see this? And my answer is, it has been, it was good. I enjoyed it. And, Robert Pattinson wasn't as bad as you would think that he was. He was a good actor. I have issues with it. But let me tell you why I'm having issues with it. And then I would preface that with preface that with a little bit more of just telling them, like, my theater experience was absolute dog shit. Like to the point where I may never go back to that theater. And that is super convenient for me because I can walk there from where I live. And it's like, it was so bad that like there was a chunk of the movie when, Batman was literally talking to Commissioner Gordon. And I was like, I wish there are subtitles because I can barely hear what they're saying. And I was just like, this is, it just,
Bro,
it really.
Like you got robbed. You got robbed of the right experience, dude. Like, in all honesty, if I had time the rest of the weekend, I probably would have walked out and said, I need my money back because I can't understand. And the quality of the picture is absolute dog shit. Excuse me, because I wanted to see it a second time over the weekend, even though my first experience wasn't the greatest. And I'm like, this can't be what they envisioned when it came to like the release of this film. Like, this was not great. Like, it was, and the glare from the lights was literally washing out the screen to the point where it was really hard to see what was going on. And I was just like, I was honestly just annoyed and pissed off, like from about 20 minutes in the film till like the end of it. Like I was just bummed. I just sat there. That's going to affect your entire perspective on and even trying to enjoy the rest of the film.
Agreed. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying is like from what I interpret, and I'm like, okay, that was okay. But then I'm like, I'm also taking into consideration my experience about it. Like, but I mean, there are parts of the film that I absolutely adored. Yes, Michelle. You took the words right out of my mouth. The Batmobile was sick when it came on screen. I was just like, okay, here we go. Like, this is dope. Colin Farrell, absolutely amazing. Yeah. I wanted more of Colin Farrell. Paul Dano is probably one of the most underrated but most talented actors out there in Hollywood today. And I absolutely enjoy everything that he does. And I wanted more of Paul Dano because he's so creepy and weird. He's so perfect for that role. The storyline, everything, I absolutely adore. The only thing that I would want really to change from what I've seen was I wanted more of the Riddler and I wanted more of the Penguin, a lot more of the Penguin, because Colin Farrell was encapsulating and completely captivating when it came to watching him as his performance, because you don't see Colin Farrell at all. You don't see this pretty boy Irish guy from, Pretty Boy Ireland out there with his accent or anything. Like, he completely transformed himself in his performance, and it was like you don't even recognize him. He's not the same person. Right. And I tried several times to stare at him and see where is he in this in this thing, because usually when you even with a lot of prosthetics on, you're just like, okay, I can see like, oh well, they're above the eyes, you can kind of see that character, you see that actor and stuff like that. Even like with Danny DeVito with the 93 Batman or 92 Batman, whatever, I think it was 92 Batman Returns. It's like you look at him, it's like, okay, I can kind of see Danny DeVito in there. I didn't see any of Colin Farrell. I thought it was fantastic. And the little hints and tidbits and jokes with him being tied up and kind of waddling off like a penguin, like, was absolutely brilliant. And it was a wonderful thing to watch. My whole thing was like, I just got so frustrated with the quality of how I was watching this film. And don't get me wrong, like when the minute I have time, if I have time this next weekend, I'm just going to go see it, but I'm going to go see it at a different theater to see if I can have a better theater experience, because it was absolutely trash when I watched it. I was just like, I was so bummed. Like, I was like, okay, so I can't see anything dark at this theater because this is what they're going to do. And it's just like, they're just not paying attention. And it's not the first time that I've had problems with that theater, but at the same time, it's just like I said, I can walk there from my house. Like, that's so convenient when it comes down to it. And I just was thoroughly disappointed that they didn't take the consideration in being able to hear the dialogue of what was going on with the actors, the visual effects and the screen projection and everything like that. It was just all messed up. And it was a total bummer. The other thing that I kind of took issue with, but I'm kind of appreciating because of the story, was there wasn't really a different character between Batman and Bruce Wayne, in my opinion. It was just a little too blurred for me to just be like, I mean, he kind of acted like Batman all the time. Now, I loved it when he was Batman because he seemed angry, he seemed vengeful, he seemed pissed off, and he really portrayed that very well. Like you said, he was very menacing. He was very like, you walk on and you could feel the fear that was coming with that man, because he was bringing a lot of pain with him. And even when he wasn't in that, he was just walking around as Bruce Wayne. He just seemed mopey and pissed off and upset and distraught. And I read that Reeves wrote the character to be like kind of a recluse rock star, just hanging out in his mansion. And I was like, okay, but the average fan isn't going to read something like that and pick up on that, because now once I've read it, I'm like, oh, I can appreciate what he was trying to do, because that makes a lot of sense as to what he was doing. But that notwithstanding, I try to, wipe the slate clean and just be like, okay, this is the character that he's trying to portray. This is what he's trying to do. So in a way, it's good. Hopefully we see a little bit more development of the different characters between Batman and Bruce Wayne, of who they are overall. And that, that was one of my major gripes with that as well. And aside from that, though, I thought the movie was a lot of fun. I liked Alfred. I liked his character a lot. I would have liked to see more of him, just because I like Andy Serkis. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I think he would have been a really good point when it came to him being in the film and just being a little bit more prominent. But the moments that he was on screen with Bruce, I thought was pretty fantastic, and it was really cool. And I think Robert Pattinson did a pretty solid job. I've told all of my friends, I was like, it's not as bad as you're expecting. And it's unfortunate because everybody just knows him from Twilight, and he's done a lot of other things since then. And he's a talented actor. So it's kind of unfortunate that, he is still typecast into this role. The only thing that I probably, when it came to griping, or if I was to nitpick a little bit, is he was awfully bulletproof. There were times when he was having bullets shot at him a lot, and he was just totally fine. Like a one or two, I get it, but it's like there was once when he had machine guns and they're just bouncing off of him. I'm like, dude, that's an awful lot of bullets that are kind of going off of him. But at the same time, I can kind of get behind it. That's not, that's the last thing that's, I'm gonna wash away with what we'll take from that movie and just give it a bad rap, because it didn't need that. It just thought it was a little bit excessive. But aside from that, like I said, I just wanted more Paul Dano and see him as the Riddler and see his character, because he just was so pissed off and so crazy. And anybody that's read any Batman story or knows all of these stories, it wasn't just a soft pull from some of the stuff that he had, that we had done. It was direct pull from the Long Halloween and Hush and all this other stuff. It was a direct reference. It is almost to the point where you started watching the movie and you're like, oh, I know what's going on. And you just you just kind of sit back and enjoy the show because it's and personified on screen for you. But it was so cool to see some of those actors and the talent that just what's his name? The guy that played Falcone is one of my favorite actors as well.
John Turturro.
Thank you. John Turturro is just, I think he's underutilized, and I love it when he plays a serious role because he is a fantastic actor. So
yeah,
he definitely had the whole mobster vibe down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's done other mobster stuff too, and like there was an HBO one that he did years ago. I can't remember what it is, but I'll see if I can look it up. But he did that, and it was so good. Like he just crushes that role. He really does a good job. So, anyways, I think I've talked long enough, and that's my review.
I was gonna say so. Oh, sorry, Kevin.
No, go ahead, Michelle.
I was just gonna say so. It seems like in the media right now, Matt Reeves' Bruce Wayne is definitely being labeled as the ultimate emo Bruce Wayne. Like, he's the most emo Bruce Wayne we've ever seen, and I don't disagree. I'm not mad at it. I'm just saying it's just funny because everybody's like, "Oh, he's really mopey, and he's really kind of like."
His fucking parents were
and
shot.
I'm like,
give the kid a break, man.
I'm like,
yeah, I mean, like 10 years ago. I mean, come on, man.
and I'm like, yeah, he's trying to hold this whole shit bag of a city together. He's doing what he can.
Happy.
I'm like,
You're constantly doing shit for free.
Yeah, like let him be emo. Who gives a crap? Like whatever. But yeah, like that's definitely the label that seems to be popping up the most, is that this Bruce Wayne is like the ultimate emo Bruce Wayne ever. So
right, but to go
so
on
here's
the go ahead, Bobby.
No, you started, so I'll let you go. And maybe you might gonna say the same thing as me, but go ahead.
But I mean, you brought that up, Yasha, something you bumped on, that like there's not a lot of like difference between Bruce Wayne and Batman in this, and I get what you're saying because there's not. But for me, it's year 2. He's still. He's been doing it for a little bit, but he's also still feeling things out. He's obviously got a lot going on with him emotionally that I like how when this movie ends, it's obvious that he's definitely emotionally taking a step in a direction.
Yeah.
Like it seems obvious to me that, we get another film. I think that, there's no doubt in this next film, the Batman and Bruce Wayne personas are going to start to, separate a little bit.
It's getting more definition to each character.
Are we going to see full on like Playboy Bruce Wayne in the next film? I don't know, but
I mean, I would hope so.
See that we're going to go in that way.
Yeah. I mean, he was starting to lean towards that a little bit, like halfway through the film when he was going to the funeral. He's like, what kind of person would Bruce Wayne be if he didn't show up for this type of, this thing? And it's like, I feel like he's on his way there. And that was, like I said, a small gripe when it came to the movie, like just the blurred lines of him acting the same in both. So, I mean, I would hope that, in the next one, we have even more growth as the character, because I mean, that's, ultimately what we want to see when it comes to these movies a lot is just the character and the development of, these people and this guy. So it's like, why wouldn't we have like the Bruce Wayne that we're all used to seeing and that we all see, knowing that Bruce Wayne's real personality is the Batman, whereas in Bruce Wayne is the mask. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I mean, like that's, I think would be a really cool development for the character and him kind of being out in the public just a little bit more and being that guy, that people like, oh, the Wayne Foundation and being the front man for that and that sort of thing, and like returning to that.
And that's definitely the direction that they're working. They're going to slowly start getting him to character up his Bruce Wayne. Like he's getting there. And I bet you he has more of a push now to even put on this Bruce Wayne persona because, like you're saying, it's the mask. Because towards the end of this film, the fear of him being revealed was extremely real for him. And it was pop. I mean, that was the whole last half hour was basically him going, I'm screwed. Like this is happening. Like I'm going to get revealed. Last hour really is him freaking out and realizing jig's up, man. I'm going to get totally hosed on this and they're totally going to reveal this. And so the fear, I think, really came to him. And I think it was probably eye-opening in a way for him to go, well, crap, I need to do a better job. And so maybe he's going to start developing his Bruce Wayne personality more as hopefully the next film or 2 or 3, possibly, God willing, we get, and then it slowly becomes that what we know of that Bruce Wayne. So, but anyways,
Let me know.
Kevin was gonna say something.
No, let me know if I'm too far out there. But I think the fact that we're sitting here scrutinizing it lends itself to why I think they did a good job. So
Yeah.
a couple points. We've already seen multiple iterations of Bruce Wayne, right? Like, I think one of the best iterations of Bruce Wayne was when Christian Bale goes into the party in Batman Begins and basically insults every single guest that he has there. Like, he is being the pompous asshole saying, get out, which is totally unlike Batman. Everything that he does is to save the people. In fact, in that scene, he's being an asshole so that everybody gets the hell out of his house. You don't got to go home, but you got to get out of here because I'm trying to save you and you guys don't know that. So that to me is the epitome. He's being Batman through playing Bruce Wayne. So that is really hard to reach. So I think the fact that we're scrutinizing Pattinson's Batman, or Bruce Wayne rather, is a testament to what Matt Reeves is doing. Because if you think about it, there's so many elements in the movie that lend itself to know that, all right, he doesn't know himself yet. Like the Batmobile, like I said, it's not tricked out yet. He doesn't know that he needs a Gatling gun yet. He doesn't know that he needs a side-launching grappler gun. He doesn't know that yet. He just knows that he needs a fast-ass, intimidating car to get from point A to point B. He puts on a glider suit. He thinks he's out of dodge, and he gets a little cocky, and he hits the top of the thing. He's still not ready yet. Hey, Master Bruce, we need you to be out there and be the face and this. Like in this movie, the Bruce Wayne is still that rebelling teen. It's year 2. He has not come into his own as Bruce Wayne. So he's still trying to play the part and know, okay, well, all right, fine. I got to show up in person. And he was still able, like, it's still passable because the reason why he said he's even going to the funeral is because he's trying to get more data on Riddler. He is using the opportunity to be Bruce Wayne to facilitate his data collecting as Batman the detective. So to me, that was like, okay, you give that a pass because it lends itself to the storytelling. And it's like, we've gotten every Playboy era of Bruce Wayne as of yet, but it takes a while to learn how to be a pimp. Like you're not going to be pimping from day one. You got to go through the breaks, as the song do. What's the breaks? So he's got to learn all that stuff. Right now he's like, I'm not trying to be out there. I'm down. Okay. I wear black makeup. I listen to Fall Out Boy, whatever it is. and I'm emotional. My parents got killed. I'm trying to put the city together and this city looks like garbage, blah, blah, blah. And so I think it gave us something fresh to latch onto and to hate, so that next time when we do see him elevate himself into that Playboy, it's like, homeboy got it. That's growth. It's like we at least I personally complained when we compare all of our DC movies to Marvel. Get him, Batman. Get him, Gordon. What do you call it? So it's frustrating to be a DC fan because I'm a DC fan, but I get way more hype for everything that Marvel's putting out because I know that they're putting foresight into everything. Where DC, it just feels like, let's try this, and if it works, it works. If not, it's a cash grab.
Right.
So, one thing that's great about just to stick with me, seeing the Marvel movies is that everything lends itself to the next. They're still pulling in the Disney Plus shows. They're pulling information and scenes that came in Iron Man in 2008. And it's like, they referenced that? How the hell did they do that? So it's like, I feel like this gives us an opportunity to look back and see the growth. Marvel did anybody know who the hell Guardians of the Galaxy was? And if you did, could you name every single character and name their plot and their story? But no, Marvel took B and D list characters and teams and made you give a damn about them slowly to where at the end, the man that was the most selfish gave the biggest sacrifice. Iron Man said, you know what? I got you. I'm going to save everything. And he didn't even want to come out of retirement. He's like, this new reality is good for me and my family. Yet he makes the biggest sacrifice of all. So it's like, it's that story arc of that growth of the character that makes you're sitting there, I'm tearing up in Endgame. What the fuck is this? I'm not watching The Notebook, So, for Batman, I really just hope that, and Yasha, I agree, that's not the Bruce Wayne that we're supposed to have. At the same time, maybe that's the growth, because we're seeing year 2. how many Batman films do we need to see another origin story? How many times
No,
do we need to see
you're
Bruce, fall into a cave and freak out and shit himself because he saw bats, and you know what I'm saying?
No, you're absolutely right. And I was actually really pleased that they didn't have this origin story in this movie. Like, I was like, we don't need to see that again. Just like Marvel did with bringing Spider-Man in. We don't need to see an origin story as to him getting bit, just discovering that he can do this and all this. We don't necessarily need that. We didn't need an origin story with Batman. I was, genuinely pleased that they didn't do that. And I acknowledge that, and you have some great points, and I really did acknowledge that as well with the fact that this was year 2. And I love the fact that they actually bring that to light, and they tell you, it's like, yo, I've only been doing this for 2 years.
Mhm.
He's only been around for 2 years. And it's like, but those 2 years have been impactful to the point where we already have a nickname for the Penguin. We barely talked about his real name. They start getting stuff for the Riddler already. And it's just like, it feels like that's something that's not even brand new. It's just kind of like, this has been happening. Like, we're trying to figure this out. And the detective part of it was really cool because we're doing it. And actually, I've told my friends, I've told some people, I was like, listen, if you want Batman, you are going to get Batman, because he is in this movie a lot. Like, we don't see Bruce Wayne that much. Like, if anything, it's probably like a 70-30 split when it comes to Batman in the movie 70% of the time, and the other 30% is Bruce Wayne. And it's just Bruce Wayne getting ready to be Batman. Like, that's how often it was. And it was, that transition is cool. But you're right. It's like, and I can definitely appreciate and get behind that, the fact that it was, it's only 2 years, and I like the fact that it is only 2 years, and hopefully we are going to see that growth in the development.
Bobby, it sounded like you were gonna say something, as then you let me go. So
he was shaking his head. He didn't agree with something I said. It's always something I said.
Gotta coordinate with this 5 of us. Gotta coordinate.
Yeah, I wrote down some little notes as you guys were talking, because I wanted to make sure I got a couple of these things in. But the thing with Bruce Wayne, it's most of what you said, David. And I'm going to be so upset when Matt Reeves' Batman 2 comes out, and then you start to see more of the Bruce Wayne persona, because people are going to say, oh, he heard people said that they didn't like that, so he changed it. And I know, I was going to say, I know for a fact. I don't know for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet big money that Matt Reeves did what he did on purpose, because he did already have it planned to have the growth of Bruce Wayne. Because at the end of the movie, it's like he says that the vengeance is inspiring the bad, and he needs to do something about that. And Batman's not going to be a kindler general Batman and start treating villains with respect. He's still going to bust heads. So the way he balances that is by the Bruce Wayne being the more philanthropic kind of character that you would see or would want to see, him doing good with that persona, using that money to help fund schools or do things and build better, like his father wanted to do, and be able to provide and give back, while at night he's going to be doing his thing. And so I definitely feel like it was a purposeful thing that Matt Reeves is doing with him, and having very little distinction. And honestly, for me, it's not all that different than when I was reading Batman comics. I mean, Bruce Wayne isn't in them all that much. It's mostly Batman stories when you're reading the comics. He's very, very few times you see him as Bruce Wayne. And if you do, he's in the Batcave with his cowl down, but he's still Batman. So it's like, it's very little Bruce Wayne stories in the Batman comics. So this felt more akin to that in that way. And I will say, and I'm probably the only person on this planet with this take, because I haven't heard anyone else say it, but this is the one and only time I actually wish they had a backstory for Batman in the movie with his parents. Reason being is because in this movie, there's actually relevance to his parents. And so it's like, I would have loved to have seen him spend a little bit more time with him as a kid to get that, and would have hit a little bit harder when the revelations come out later on about his parents. But to not see them at all in the movie, it just didn't hit the way I would have wanted it to, because this was the first time I'm actually seeing him. I didn't get to see his day out with him, or him having interactions with him when he was younger, to see how much that would hurt him. You can imply that it would. You get why it would, because you're playing on your history of the character and what you know. but they didn't actually show that relationship early on for it to be more effective in the movie. So it was like the one time that I really thought it would have been effective to have had that in there, and it wasn't. But I don't know. I think that, like I said, I'm probably in the minority there because I get why they didn't do it, and it makes perfect sense. But yeah, it's the one time that their parents actually play a pivotal role in the movies beyond just dying. So it was kind of interesting that they didn't show anything else beyond that. But yeah, I think that there's so many other aspects into the things that I love. And, there's one of the things that I really think was one of my favorite scenes is so not anything in terms of a major action scene or big stunt or anything. It was the moment when Batman arrives at the crime scene and the cops are looking at him like this freak. And it was like that felt so real to me because he looked out of place in a place like that. And that felt so real because he looked so out of place. That's how people would react to seeing this guy dressed up in this costume come into a crime scene.
And not only that, but like you could feel like the disdain that they had. It's like, this dude ain't even a cop. What the hell is he doing here?
Yeah, no, very fair. I love I love the dynamic he had with the officers, everybody outside of Gordon. Gordon is the only one that believed in him. Everybody else, you can feel like this detesting emotion. Like, it's like, why are you here? Like, and even one of the, I can't remember, I think it was the commissioner, the acting commissioner or whatever, was like, this guy's a vigilante. Why is he in this crime scene? He's messing everything up. And it was so angry. And it was the fact that he was still allowing it. I found it humorous and I loved it. I was like, Bobby, you're not wrong. Like that scene where they're just partying and letting him in. It's just like, they're like, why are you here? Like, it's just like, it didn't need to be. So I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so like I think one of the really great things that Matt Reeves really saw was that he made that scene happen, but then to give expanse to the whole idea of Batman to the police force, to even Gotham, was to have that one cop kind of continuously pop up throughout the movie, and he's slowly changing his perceptions and thoughts of him as the movie progresses, as he has to deal with this vigilante, and it's like he slowly comes around to him, and it's kind of like Gotham slowly coming around to the idea of what this guy is going to be for them. Still not in love with him by the end of the movie, but definitely not where we were at the beginning of this movie. And so it's like to watch, it's like Matt uses this one cop character to symbolize everyone's slow shift and change of it. I won't even go as far as to say acceptance, but maybe more understanding of what Batman is. And it was just kind of cool that he used that character kind of to show throughout the progression of the film. It was really a genius move.
Yeah.
Sorry, Yash, you had a question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, this is almost, everybody's probably thought about this at one point or another, but I'm just going to ask, and Kevin, you alluded to it. We haven't touched on it. Who would you like to see in the role of the Joker when we go into if they decide to move forward with that storyline, which hopefully they do after the huge lead in at the end of this movie?
That actor's name is.
Yeah, they already have the actor.
Yeah, he was.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was in the Marvel's
Eternals.
Eternals. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Who is it?
The dude that could go ahead, David. You know better.
He played Druig, the guy who had mind manipulation in the Eternals.
Oh, that's right. I think I do remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, there was a leak a few months ago about him, and then I forgot happily, and so then I saw the movie. Was like, oh, cool. Who is that? And then it was like, then I heard. I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. So if they're
that's
gonna
right,
have
I do
Joker,
remember
it sounds
that.
like if they have a Joker featured in the next film, or even not the next one, the next one after that, I think that would be that actor. So going forward, I think is the plan.
And Matt Reeves did say that last scene which you see with him in there isn't necessarily indicative of who the next villain would be. He said he did put that
Right,
in there,
exactly.
but that doesn't mean that would be the next thing. So
Barry Kogan. Kagan.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I love how open world he left everything. Like, that's why I said, like, it seems like the perfect catalyst for anything that you want to do with Batman. Because it's not like he's setting up Joker to be the next villain. He's just telling you, hey, there's this dude with a crazy ass smile who's crazy, and he's already in Arkham. You don't know. I mean, Joker has broken out of Arkham several times. So we could have 2 more movies. And at the end of the 3rd movie, hey, there was a breakout at Arkham. And now all of a sudden you're going to have a 3-movie Joker, run. I think the fact that he did that without any solid implication as to what's coming next is he set himself up. It's just like Nolan at the end of Begins. Hey, we've got this character, leaving his calling card. Here it is. And Nolan didn't even know that there was going to be a Dark Knight when he did at the end of Batman Begins. He just wanted to give nods to something within Batman, and he did so well that we got another one. So it's like I just hope Matt Reeves is able. I hope WB gives him the blessing to do a second one, and not only to do a second one, but that they are wise enough to realize, like, we've already had enough fuck ups. We've had Batman and Robin. We had Batman Forever. Every time that the brass gets involved, it gets messed up. We saw it with Justice League. Justice League got reissued with the Snyderverse. It was an improvement. It's like if
I love your optimism, bro. I really do.
Josh's heart is broken.
They've broken my heart. It's like I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's almost like my love for this has been broken down almost as much as Bobby's love of Transformers, and knowing that he's just not going to get the movie that he wants. He's just never going. And he has openly said, and I have tried to convince him otherwise of at least watching it for the review of the shows. But I sit there and it's like, I can't like when they make something and they bring it out, like my hopes are, they always go up, and then it just seems like when they found something that works, because they just throw shit on the wall just to see if it's going to stick. And when it finally does, they're like, oh, well, we should probably think about doing this. And then they rush it, or they don't do it well, and they just don't focus on it. And it's like, when it comes to the WB, I just kind of sit back and just like, all right, if it happens, it happens. But I have no faith whatsoever that they're going to get it right. None.
Bro, you know what it is? We're all like, you remember Randy Quaid in,
yes.
Was it Randy Quaid? I can't remember the actor's name, but I think it was Randy Quaid in Major League, where he's always in the series. He's like, they'll blow it in the playoffs. He comes to every game, but he's like, God, these guys suck. They'll blow it in the playoffs.
And you know what? I say that, dude, and I will be in the theater for opening day if they do another Batman movie, if they do another Wonder Woman, when they do an Aquaman. And David hated the first Aquaman movie, and I'm sure he'll be there the first weekend as well. That's the high hopes that they're going to do something and get it right. And
I'm crossing my fingers.
He's just crossing everything. Okay, like literally everything, walking in, and you're just.
But it made all the money, so why change anything? They're not going to fix that.
Oh, they're not going to fix that crap show of a throw. Anyways,
can I pose a question?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Catwoman for a little bit?
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
I'm sure David's super sad to hear about this.
What?
Wait. Super sad to hear about what? What happened? What happened to Catwoman?
What happened?
No. I know that David was quite happy with Zoe Kravitz, and I was too. So I'm just poking fun.
I am a Zoe Kravitz fan.
I mean, who isn't? I mean, you're heterosexual.
Exactly.
And even some women who are straight, they're like, she could get it. Like, like,
did you guys see that tweet where the guy was like, all you need to know about the Batman, the woman next to me audibly moaned when Zoe Kravitz came on screen.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's funny. That's funny.
Really all you need to know.
That's really it.
Yeah, I mean, I said let me pose a question, and I just made a statement. But like, what's y'all's take on Catwoman? What did you like about the reintroduction of a Catwoman that we've already seen on screen. What was your take on if they kept it fresh? Did they add anything new? Just your perspective.
I like this take of Selena Kyle a lot. I think it shows that she still has a lot of growth and she still has a lot of bitterness to grow inside of her, as crazy as that sounds. Like she's got it. It's just gonna get deeper and she's gonna get more resentful towards, I think, men and life and the world. And you can see that it grows. It was slowly building throughout the whole movie. And by the end of it, she's like, let's get out of here. She's like, I'm done with this place. Like my bitterness and resentment for Gotham right now is peak at this time. And I like that, she's still a good person, but yeah, she's going to grow and get progressively harder as the world continues to harden her. And she'll become more of a badass. You can see that. It's pretty cool.
I love the fact that she was playfully pissed like all the time. Like all the time she was just annoyed, angry, and still just a complete and utter badass. Like she was just pissed off but playful with it. And I mean, it honestly reminded me a lot of the cartoon, the Batman Beyond, I think is the name of the show from the 90s. Is that what it was? Batman Beyond or Batman? Batman the animated series. Batman the animated series, yeah.
Bruce Timm.
Yeah, she was. She reminded me a lot of that iteration. I love the fact that she was really into Bruce or Batman like almost immediately. Like it's almost just like, I like the bad boy, and you're the ultimate bad boy. You're walking around on roofs and like taking people out and stuff like that or whatever and whatnot. It's just, she was badass. She was badass. I dug it. Well, you're walking around on roofs.
Yeah. Bruce Wayne, yeah, he obviously liked her a lot too, because I mean, he couldn't take his eyes off her when she was even changing. He had them stalker vibes going when she was like getting undressed. It was really creepy in that way, but it was she definitely did a great job in that portrayal, and I really felt like she had such a good take on the character. And honestly, I would say any of the people I've seen play that character have done pretty fantastic. Other than I've never seen Halle Berry's Catwoman movie, so I can't say to that.
Same
But
here.
obviously, yeah, most people say it's bad.
Baby, I've never seen it.
And
Everybody's seen it.
I'll be
I
honest.
took my little sister wanted to go see that movie. I took her when I think she was like 8, and I shit you not, she walked out of that movie and she was like, that was dumb. Like an 8-year-old told me that the movie, she was like 8 or 10. She was like 8 or 10, and she was like, that was really dumb. That was dumb, right? I'm not just imagining it. Like, I'm like, no, sweetheart.
No, honey, you're right. That was dumb.
That was a dumpster fire of a fucking movie. Excuse my language.
Like,
no, Michelle Pfeiffer, I think, really kicked off the character a lot in the film.
For sure.
I mean, she really put a high bar on it, quite honestly. And she was involved in her stunt work when she filmed that film. And so that was a pretty high bar. And then I think Anne Hathaway did a good job too, honestly. Like I was pretty impressed.
I was
with
never
her
a fan
skill set.
of that one.
Really? I
thought she did a
thought
good
it was
job.
pretty good. It was a little different. I thought it was actually kind of, in a weird way, she was almost a little softer, but I think she was a little more whip smart. Like I felt like she was a lot more like, I don't know.
I hear that pun. See, you got the jokes.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, she was very like, she was very witty. Like she was very smart, but she was kind of hiding it, and she knows that she was smart. And I liked the way I think that persona was really, I think she did a really good job with that one too. So far I've been impressed with the Catwoman I have seen, not the Halle Berry one I've not seen.
I just did the math. She was 13 years old, and I took my little sister out, and she was 13 when that movie came out in 2004. And she legit looked at me and said that movie was dumb.
What did David think of Zoe Kravitz?
I thought she was great. I really liked the dynamic between her and Batman in this particular. I thought it was better than most of the other films. I mean, everything you guys have said, I thought she was great in the film.
So, Kevin looked like you wanted to say something.
No, bro, go ahead.
No, so there's an element of the show that with you guys that I'm definitely here for, but I would be remiss to not mention that there's a show within the show going on, because Carlton is in rare form tonight with some of the
Yeah, he
comments
is.
he's making, and I think you gotta highlight at least a couple of those, David, because for one, I don't, and this is since you're commenting right now.
Oh my
How
gosh,
do
I
you
just opened the
know-
comments.
How do you know that Zoe Kravitz has what did he call them? Finger toes? Like,
What?
have you seen her toes that you know how they look? Because I'm
Or
wondering
are you alluding to the fact that she looked like she got big toenails for fingernails?
something like that, because he seems to have a pretty hot take right there. But yeah, there's definitely some good comments. And see,
Yeah, finger toes.
Yes, finger toes.
I don't know
Yes, I mean,
how he even knows that.
Oh my goodness.
And there was also a comment from Adrian, and that you might want to highlight.
There was, yeah, I was gonna highlight that one as well.
Oh, that's my homeboy.
See, I think he has such a good take right there, because this is definitely one of those types of movies where the more you chew on it and it sits with you, the more things start to pop out to you, and you're like, yeah, that was good. You know, it's so weird. I had this weird vibe the second time I saw the movie before I saw it, because a lot of the comparisons, rightfully so, have been made to Seven and, you know, Along Came the Spider, Kiss Girls, all those types of movies, which is fair. And along with those types of movies, a lot of times, because of how weighty and heavy they are, sometimes I can only see movies like that once. And I'm like, even though I love it and I'm kind of good. And I had that feeling before I went to go see it the second time. It was like, I don't know if I want to see this again. It already is so good to me that it feels like seeing it again, I have to put myself back in that mood, in that mode again to see it. And so it was like interesting going into it like that. But of course, seeing it the second time is always great, because you pick out some more things that you didn't notice before and everything like that. But yeah, it was like it had that feeling to it, like you do with those sometimes the movies that are very foreboding and heavy and deep like that. But it's absolutely one of those things where you know that you'll still get more out of it, like a meal later on.
so to shift a little bit, I have two things I really want to bring up in the show, because I know we're not like tight on time, but we're, you know, I want to make sure we talk about it.
Yeah,
First,
we'll probably have to wrap up here in just a few minutes.
First, I want to give a shout out to the costume designer for this film. I think there was some really great decisions that got made. I think keeping the palette the way that they did, but then also like slightly changing it. Like when you would go into Penguin's like club and you would see Penguin, his palette was just ever so slightly off from the darker palettes. It was almost interesting. It was like there was almost like a weird iridescence to him, and it's like it was a weird shine, and it's one of those weird things. It's like are they like trying to almost? It's really faint. It's not. It was like the more I looked at him, the more I started picking up on it, and I'm like, is it to make it like Penguin-esque? Like it was kind of cool.
That's interesting.
And it's like you really had to look at it was like his coat. Like you really had to like pay attention to what he was wearing. And I was like, that's kind of neat. And then I really thought the idea of
no, Michelle said you really had to pay attention to like what you could see in his coat. I was like, sorry, yeah, you couldn't probably pay attention to much.
Then like the idea that I like that with Zoe Kravitz, with Catwoman, with Selena Kyle, you know, they didn't give her gloves. Like her nails were her cat nails. Like she legit had those nails going. I was like, no, it was pretty sweet actually. Because that's the first time they've done that. It's always she's wearing gloves or some kind of something on her to make her cat-like. And this time it was just her natural. I mean, they're not natural, but they were her natural nails. We'll use air quotes here to do that. And I was like, okay. It was just there's just so many little subtle things that they did costuming wise and the art department wise that really nod at certain things. And like the more I think about things and the more I kind of pick up on them, and it's just kind of like, that was a really good decision. It was quite brilliant.
I think
that was one of my two things.
I think on the whole, they just did a good job of, like I said, we've had multiple Batman, right? So it's like, how many times can you reboot a character and have a movie and it still feel fresh? So it's like they took a Catwoman that we have seen. You mentioned we have Anne Hathaway, We got Michelle Pfeiffer. We got Eartha Kitt. We have Julie Newmar. We have the one that did it the one time for the movie. We've gotten multiple iterations of Catwoman, and yet it still felt fresh. He lent reality and practicality to the characters the way that Nolan did. It's like, all right, if Catwoman were a real person and she was going to scratch somebody, it would be these big ass Lee press-on nails that were long, and it facilitates the storytelling because, like in Long Halloween, you have Carmine Falcone, like the origin of those 3 scars. Anytime that you see Falcone in the comic books, he's got a scratch mark from Catwoman on his face, and she scratches Homeboy's face up with those nails, so it's like they were able to introduce characters that we've seen multiple times and be like, oh wow, that's cool. And the fact that like they're in the apartment and she's like, yeah, I like strays. It addresses the cat without having to throw her out of a second floor and have her land in kitty litter and do that very on the nose type thing, right? And then like she's talking to Batman, she's going into the refrigerator, and what did she get to drink? She didn't get a Sprite, she didn't get a Coke, she didn't get no juice, she got some milk. You know what I'm saying? It's like those are the type of like fan service things that I don't feel are cheap. It's the type of fan service that I want to see. You know what I'm saying? Right. So yeah, I mean, I think he did a great job in putting those characters in there. One thing that I'm trying to find out the backstory or maybe why it is that he did it is I guess that's not true because in the games, anyways, sorry, tangent in my head. ADD squirrel. So like Penguin's face scars, I want to know the story behind those. Like those are some pretty gnarly scars. Like what the hell happened? I mean, I know he's in a gang and you get shot at a lot and all that stuff, whatever, but I feel like, and you guys know more than I do, I'm just a fan. Like in the movie business, I know that there's decisions made to kind of foreshadow or to press the story on or to make you think. So I am kind of curious in a very outwardly tangent way, what's the story behind his face scars, But I mean, on the whole, I just love the fact that we're seeing characters that we already know, and if you're a real fan and you're reading the books and you're familiar with all of that content, all the canon content, it's made fresh enough for you to see and love it again, Yeah.
I was gonna say this is a big one for David. If I could throw this one out, it would be the score to this. I think we touched on it a little bit. I think it sounds like everybody loved it. And even I remember when the trailer first dropped, it was kind of like that one teaser they kind of did, I think, at the DC Universe like thing that one summer.
Yeah, the fandom
event. And then again for the first trailer that we got is Batman's theme. And I remember when it first came out, people kind of made comparisons to it, kind of sounding like the Darth Vader like death march, like dun 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 dun, dun. And I'm like, yeah, it is kind of similar to it, slowed down. But then it's funny, I kind of forgotten about that conversation from however long ago that was. Yeah. And in our viewing at the end of the film, there's people talking about that and how they're like, oh, he just ripped it off from Star Wars, blah 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 blah. And I was just like, I don't think it's quite that much of a ripoff. I was like, let's turn it down a smidgen. But overall, I was happy with it. I'm going to let David chime in because I know he's got thoughts on the score.
I mean, I don't really have thoughts beyond what I've already said. I really enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, is the kind of motif that theme a simple theme? Sure. I mean, so it's easy, I think, to go, oh, it sounds like this or it sounds like that. It's, if you were to play it on a piano by itself, it's not going to sound like much, but in the context of that score, it works really well. And no, anybody who says, oh, it's just like ripping off of like Imperial March is, I think, a bit off the mark.
I agree, but I know that it's definitely a big conversation piece and people seem to really love it, or they're kind of like, oh, it's a ripoff. But I really love it, and I think it really works in the context that they use it for, the scenes they use it in. I think it's really intense and hard and gritty, and it just, it's good.
I think there's going to be haters no matter what, and the reality is, like, at this point in cinema, things have been calculated down to a science. Like, we know that there are certain notes that cause like a physical sensation. So it's like, we're going into a century of silver screen, straight up Hollywood magic. And at this point, what is going to evoke an emotion of fear or joy or tear, or that a high pitched violin string is going to literally physically cause you to shiver or your hairs to stand up. So it's like we're going to get to the point at some point in all of the art where everything has already been done, and you're always going to have haters who be like, "Oh, well, this was from that." It's like, dude, just enjoy the movie for what it is. I mean, if your hair is going to stand up, they're going to stand up for this one. And 20 years from now, when they make another, Shining movie or a Shining the sequel, I might be talking complete boo boo. If there isn't already a sequel, like I said, it's down to a science. We're gonna relive and re-see and rehear a lot of things, but
Right.
I guess the main takeaway is just enjoy it.
So I was gonna say, yeah, we are running out of time, but if there's any last things anybody wants to jump on really quick, touch on. Bobby, it looked
Bobby
like
had
something like
something.
you wanted to say.
Yeah, no, it would be bad form of me not to at least mention some things that I didn't like, because to me it wasn't a perfect movie, and there's definitely a few things that I thought had me scratching my head a little bit. And I think first and foremost would have been the third act. It was definitely a little bit too long, and I felt like right after the Riddler is captured is where it starts to feel like I could feel the time, and I didn't before that. And it felt like it was more that when it seemed like there was multiple cap off endings, sort of like the Return of the King, where you have a scene and it sort of ends, and then there's someone else's scene, and then that ends. It kind of felt like that. It wasn't horrible. It didn't terribly bother me, but it definitely made me feel like there could have been a way to maybe tighten that up or do something there a little bit different. But the only other thing that I sort of, I guess, bumped up against, it almost was a sequence in which it happened, and so that's why I kind of remember it so well. But it all started at the end of that bomb scene when the guy's the DA's head blows off. I felt like, while I do like the fact that this Batman is young and he's still learning and he's not perfect, I don't know a person that with 10 seconds to go and this thing is going to explode, that you would stay there the entire time just expecting to get shielded by your bat suit when it blows up. I don't know why he just didn't leave at that moment, but it goes from that into him being knocked out, and you're telling me they transported him to the police station and no one thought to take off his mask in the transport all the way until he's in the police holding cell to then try and take it off as he's waking up? That seemed a little odd to me. And then you transition from that scene into where Commissioner Gordon is calling him with the bat signal. I'm like, you're telling me none of the cops decided to follow the bat signal to where he just busts out of this jail, and now he's being signaled by someone to come, and they're not going to follow it with the copters to see? I mean, there'd be an APB out on Batman at that point. It just felt a little weird, but I
little coincidental.
I didn't get like upset about it, but I was just like, kind of thing. But that's like my nitpicking stuff. It's definitely not anything that ruined my experience or made me upset with the movie, but I did feel those things, and I felt like I had to at least mention.
Yeah, those are the things you just kind of dismiss and go,
for
the sake of the movie, let's just say the cops wouldn't just go there.
It's also a guy dressing up as a bat running across the city beating people up. So there's that. We suspend reality a little bit here and there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bobby, honestly, when you were saying that, like, I hadn't really thought about the bomb scene, and I'm like, the entire time that you're saying that, I'm like, first of all, I agree. And all I saw was Adam West running down the dock with a bomb in his head. Like, I'm just like, damn, did they do that on purpose? Or some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
That's hilarious.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, and I'll echo we had talked about it off air a little bit. I'll echo the length of the film. Like, this is one of those things that I really wanted to see this movie a second time to see how I felt about the length on the second viewing.
Yeah.
But Do I feel like it's a little too long? Yes. And
Yeah.
I think the cuts could have been made here and there to tighten it up. And I think that goes into, do I think pacing for the film at times is a problem? Yes, I do. As much as I love good dialogue and I will listen to people just talking a movie all day long. That's not a problem. It's not like I'm saying, oh, it's got to have a ton more action. But, there were times I think the pacing combined with the length of this movie, some tightening in the editing could have been made.
You're telling me that you're not enthusiastic for the extended director's release?
I'm not saying I won't watch it. You give me a
With
4-hour cut of
commentary?
this movie, I'll watch it. But
You will enthusiastically watch it. No, I agree. Like it could have been tightened up, and they could have shaved 20 to 25 minutes off this movie, I think, if they really, really tried to. And I have to agree with what Bobby said. I felt the same way. Like I felt like really up to that point when they have the Riddler in Arkham, I was not feeling the length of the film. And then as the scene with Paul Dano plays out, because Paul Dano is so great, it was an enjoyable scene. But then by the end of it, the next scene is they're back in the Riddler's apartment, and then I started feeling the length of the film a little bit too. Like I was kind of like, okay, like we're not quite done yet.
Yeah.
We're not quite done yet.
Yeah.
Okay, just a little bit more. Like, and it was enjoyable, but at the same time, it was kind of like, okay,
Can we get there?
we're almost there. We're so close to being wrapped up totally. Like,
Right.
it's like it was like you're constantly like almost getting the carrot, and then it would swing back away, and you're like, okay.
yeah,
But at the same time, I'm not that angry at it. But yeah, it's like
Yeah.
for the story to end the way it does, it could have tightened up in other places to make that section not have felt as ongoing as I think it
Right.
did.
well, with that, anybody got any quick last things?
I just wanted to close with Yasha. I hope that you get the opportunity to
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna see it again. I just don't know when.
Totally.
But it
Do
was.
you have
yeah.
something like a 4DX or a D box or any type of? Because I feel like the first experience was so robbing of your experience to be able to feel
should
that.
go the
film.
other
You
end
need
of
to
the
go
spectrum.
totally, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, dude. Like the first time that I've only seen a 4DX movie twice. The first one was No Way Home, and I watched that. I was like, there is no way I can watch a film without it being 4DX. Like, you feel so in the movie, dude. Like, there's strobe lights in the actual theater that go off whenever there's a gunshot or if there's a lightning strike. There is air puffing at your face. There's in between your feet, there's this tickler. So if there's something like a grappling gun it's going to take out a dude's feet, your feet get tickled. I mean, I'm telling you, bro, it is like if you've been to Universal or Disney and you have any of those interactive rides like Harry Potter or in Universal, the Spider-Man ride,
Shrek or
Transformers ride,
something.
it is so immersive in the experience that you get to enjoy it as I'm in this damn city. I'm in the Batmobile, and this dude just shot at me. And dude, it is. I feel like you need something like that, something that jarring, and something that immersive to make up for the experience that you had. Man, I hope. You get it.
If I get a chance to see it soon, like I'm gonna scope out to see the best possible theater that I can go to and just drive to it because
just swing hard the other way.
I'm just going to because like I said, it was so disappointing. Like the experience that I had, it's really turned me off to like probably ever going back to the theater again, unless it's just real quick. Like I said, the sound quality, which I think David, you would have lost your shit when it came to that because you're so in tune with that. And
I
then
probably would have walked out like you said you considered, but
I was really close to doing it.
David would have walked out for sure.
But it's like that's the thing is like I didn't have time the rest of the weekend to like try and get to it. So it's like I had to see this movie. Like I knew that I needed to watch it. Anyways.
Well, with that, we are gonna wrap things up and get out of here. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com with your questions and comments. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at @flicker_effect. No matter where you're watching us, if you're watching us on video on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching, you can leave questions or comments down below. On YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe, hit that bell icon, all that good stuff. We would love to hear from you. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
I'm Michelle Hillard.
And Kevin, thank you for joining us again. It was
Thank
good to
you.
have you.
It was a pleasure, guys.
Yes.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
glad to
Thanks
be
for
here.
coming.
We'll have you back again soon, I'm sure. With that, thanks
Hopefully.
everybody for listening and watching.
And Bobby, I'm sorry I called you Brian at least twice.
No worries.
Should have thrown
Start
a
with
batarang
B.
at me.
Started with a
5
B.
letters.
No,
You're in the ballpark.
it was a pleasure sharing opinions with you guys, man.
Thanks
Dave,
for
thanks for
being
inviting me.
on. Bye, guys.
Bye.